What's up, guys? It is May. It is an amazing month to fish. It is an amazing month to not be cold. And it's that time where we're going to talk about some of the baits and ways that we like to fish this month. So Jeff and I are here. We are talking about our favorite baits for the month of May. I've narrowed this down to 5-ish. Jeff's laughing. Count. Hey, it's 5.
Let's keep count.
My 5 favorite baits. Now, of course, remember, this is all, you know, subjective to regions and certain bodies of water, but I went through and selected baits that I love to fish this time of the year from lake to lake to lake. So we're gonna just have an open conversation about the month of May, some cool tackle. If you would like to join in, let's go. Welcome to the Hookup Tackle.
Oh, what a stud.
Yeah. Look at that.
That was sick.
Woo!
Cheers, my friends. Happy Sunday. All right, guys, some breaking news. What's new this week at the Hookup Tackle?
What a beautiful post-spawn fish.
Look at that.
Look at that gut on that. That's a nice fish.
Welcome back, my friends. I am Ben with the Hookup Tackle, the Tackle Otaku on Instagram, being joined by my buddy, Jeffrey the King. Jeffrey the King, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic as always, man.
That is good to hear. You've been doing some excellent work with our buddy Gilbert over at Working Class Zero on some of those swim bait videos.
Yeah, that guy's pretty cool.
Dude, crushing it. It was really cool to see some cool content, and it's fun to hear you have the same feedback with somebody else. It's kind of like, you know, like when your wife cheats.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And usually you're like weird about it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of like oddly voyeuristic for me. I'm like, I like hearing him talk to him like
Yes.
that because it reminds me of our time together. That's how I feel. I love you. Weird yet?
Don't cheat on your wife.
What are you talking about? Where'd that come from? Let's talk about baits, weirdo. All right. It is the month of May. Unless something weird from the universe happens, we shouldn't be cold anymore.
I wish we were cold.
For the next few months, no. The heat is here. Hallelujah. Thank you. Finally, it's feeling like shorts and t-shirt weather, which is...
You are looking very bright today in that Anatech Iowa shirt.
Thank you very much. This is my happy orange, okay? Month of May. It's my Halloween shirt. Okay. We are talking about post-spawn in most parts of the country now. A lot of you guys that are living up north may still be in pre-spawn, especially when we're talking smallmouth. There were some dudes in here the other day that were from Wisconsin that are still talking about like ice melting, right? So I know that some of you chose poorly and you live in some really terrible places where it's still cold, okay? But for everybody else that chose wisely, so like, you know, lower part of the country, right? We are dealing with either spawn, post-spawn. We're dealing with shad spawns right now. So, you know, the full moons generally mark the shad spawn. There's lots of stuff happening, right? Post-spawn is my absolute favorite time of the year to fish because it's through the nonsense. We're through most of the spawn and the fish are back to just being predators, right? They're back to just feeding and chasing bait, and we can kind of get back to that like natural instinct of like anglers of like hunting, right? Find the prey, find the fish, you know, ambush stuff, right? So that's basically how I made my selection. Now there are certain times where you have to slow down, you have to finesse, you have to throw some small things, but day in and day out, this time of the year, it's about fishing really fast for me, covering a lot of water and finding those really key areas where there's more active fish. So generally, when the fish finish spawning, you know, generally they will move off their spawning beds and they'll kind of stage. They'll either just suspend out over open water on the treetops. They'll find some kind of hump, like a staging hump, where they can just kind of get out of the shallows, and they don't go super deep. They just get out of the shallows and they go like chill somewhere, right? Like a safe house, right? Where they can just kind of hang out for a little bit, recover. maybe there's food, there's bait swimming around, there's crawdads in the rocks. Easy for them to kind of fuel up and then kind of move back shallow and start chasing stuff. So that's really what we're looking for, are kind of those areas where fish are starting to stage out, or areas where they have finished that and now they're kind of just moving back shallow and they're aggressive and they're eating bluegills, they're eating shad, they're prepping for that shad spawn, bait fish spawn, bluegill spawn, whatever it may be in your area. So for me, anytime I'm starting on a lake, generally I'm starting with either a crankbait or a swim bait. That's the easiest place to start for me. So let's start with crankbait. So here we go. For me, it's usually some kind of square bill. Now, we've been talking about basically these couple of square bills, and I'm showing something that I haven't shown before, which is super dope. So this is the Deps Evoke 1.2. It's one of our favorite crankbaits. Ever since we started throwing this crankbait a while ago, it's become one of our favorites. This is our custom color bone air that we had made. So you guys know that I'm a huge fan of white. So this is basically just taking a bone color. We did this in a slide swimmer. We transferred it into an Evoke as well, and it's just a beautiful all natural bait fish shad pattern, right? So either the Evoke or recently a square bill that we've been having a ton of fun throwing is from Raid, the Level Crank Goriller. So these are kind of the two that I find are staying on my rods. Now, as far as choosing between the two, the Evoke is basically like a four-wheel drive crankbait. So if I'm going to a place where I know there's a lot of brush, a lot of wood, a lot of trees, if the water's high and there's going to be just a lot of shit everywhere, then I'm throwing the Evoke, because I can basically put it right into a tree, right into a bush, crank it through. It's going to come up and over. If I feel it getting snaggy, I just pause it. It's real buoyant, floats up, goes back. I can pretty much fish it with confidence and know that this thing isn't going to snag, and the fish eat it really good. If the fish are eating a little weird, like Jeff, you and I were talking about, you went swim baiting a couple days ago and they're just acting kind of dumb, right? So kind of half-assed. They weren't really committal. They were just nipping and not really eating. When that happens, then I found that the Goriller can be a really amazing backup to the Evoke. So what the Goriller does is the Goriller provides a bigger bodied, real hard hitting square bill, right? So it's a real, a ton of vibration, almost like throwing a real large bladed jackhammer, right? So you can really feel it in there. But what this bait does so well is that the uniqueness to this bait is that this is a chamber. So this hook is actually screwed into this tungsten chamber that goes basically the width of the bait. And that chamber is keeling that hook. So the bait basically pivots around that hook, right? So that hook is staying still while that bait is moving. So when they're really kind of lazy and they just real lightly, go to get it, that hook is exactly in the right place, and you'll get them on that front hook almost every time. So your land ratio is incredibly good. A lot of times with square bills, they're on the outside, they're on the head, they're in weird places. This is one of those baits that when they get it, you pretty much land them 100% of the time. So, I think of this guy, this is probably still my starting point because, well, that was my starting point. Basically just because the Evoke, you can just fish it through everything. I love how you're laughing. This is my only bone air left.
Can't keep the boner in your hands, huh?
That was good. Dirty mind, Jeff. I like it. Basically, I like this one because I know no matter what I come across, it's coming out. So if I'm fishing from shore, if I'm fishing from boat, if I'm fishing vegetation, if I'm fishing rock, if I'm fishing wood, I can throw this thing anywhere and I can bring it through it. This guy is kind of my backup if I need something a little bit more vibration and they're just kind of half-assing the bite. This one gets them. So number one for me, almost always this time of the year, is some type of square bill. Now, if they're not eating the square bill, before I kind of abandon that, kind of shallow power fishing, next on my list would definitely be this guy. Now, this is a staple pretty much everywhere now, and this is the Megabass Magdraft. Now, the 6-inch size for me is key. A lot of you guys live in places where the 8-inch might be better. I just love the 6-inch. I pretty much stay in white patterns. There's all kinds of colors. So if you guys are in Clearwater, you might want to throw gizzard or brownie. If you guys are up north, you might want to play with the perch. But there's something about these white patterns, whether it's whiteback shad or albino pearl shad. I just go back and forth between these two, and sometimes I like one, sometimes I like the other one. The Magdraft's just kind of a magical bait. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it because we talk about it almost every month this time of the year. But again, it's just a slow, methodical bait that has just a little bit of head wobble while that tail is back there moving. So you kind of get the dancing and that vibration and that draft coming off that bait. It's a great one for skipping, so if there's a lot of stuff, I can easily skip it up underneath a canopy, I can skip it up underneath docks, I can really put it wherever I need to put it. And speaking of docks, if you guys have a lot of docks in your area, that's also a great place for fish to post spawn. So they will move up and spawn a lot of times just like on the beams of the docks. They'll move up shallow in the backs of the coves where docks may be. And then when they're done, they will chill underneath docks, whether it's just a boat dock or a dock coming off from the house or marinas. Marinas are amazing post-spawn places where there's just huge floating canopies for them to feel safe and just chill underneath that thing. And then there's plenty of food and it's really easy just to move up and eat and then just suspend back down and chill. So don't be afraid to fish in 100 feet or 200 feet of water underneath the dock. You can skip something back up in there, and those fish that are suspended will all of a sudden see something come by that they're not used to seeing. An easy meal, they get it. It's a fun way to fish as well. So Magdraft for me, number 2. It's also a great one for just covering a lot of ground. I don't fish it fast, but I feel like if I swim this thing properly, if I pick my lane and I swim this Magdraft through and I don't get bit, there's probably not a fish there. That's kind of my confidence way of doing it. Whereas if I run a crankbait or a chatterbait or a spinnerbait through there and they don't eat it, then maybe they wanted the other one. Like if I fish a spinnerbait and I didn't eat it, maybe they want a square bill, right? And I throw that through there, they didn't eat it, maybe they want a chatterbait. Like that's kind of how my mind works. If I run a Magdraft through there and I made the perfect cast and went by a bush and they didn't eat it, I'm good just moving on. There's probably not something there, or at least if somebody didn't follow it, if somebody didn't give me some kind of feedback. So I love it just because it's an efficient bait. I can make one cast and I make the right cast. I know, yes, they're here. No, they're not here. I'm on to my next cast, okay? So number 2 for me, definitely a Magdraft. Now, number 3 is something that I'm gonna fish in a lot of these same areas, but it's really more of kind of a specific use bait. They don't eat this everywhere, but when they eat this, it's a no-brainer to be throwing that. And that is this guy, probably my favorite all-time post-spawn bait. And if I know they're gonna eat it, then I'm starting with this and probably just fishing this all day, okay? And that's a frog. Now, I'll use 2 different styles of frogs, a walking frog and like a sprinker style buzz frog. 95% of the time it's just a walking frog. I like the walking frog because it's a slow moving bait that literally is just staying right on top of them and they don't have a choice but to really eat it if they're sitting right there. I'll use the sprinker when they're a little bit more active. So if there's a legit shad spawn going on and I'm seeing fish flickering and fish are pushing, then I can throw something like a sprinker frog. And if you guys aren't familiar with the sprinker frog, this is a frog that Teckel makes. It's basically like a hollow-bodied, kind of a buzz bait. You kind of fish it the same way, but basically you just cast it and this tail in the back is just plopping back there, right? So it's just like plop, 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 plop. So kind of like a whopper plopper, but as in a hollow-bodied. So you can throw it anywhere. You can skip it underneath trees. You can throw it over mats and not worry about those treble hooks dangling. They absolutely destroy it when they're really aggressive. But I find that, that real aggressive bite is usually like the first 30 minutes of the day, the first hour of the day. And to be totally transparent, I hate getting up that early. So Jeff and I kind of share this in common. Like the whole idea of being at a lake at 4 o'clock in the morning sucks ass, especially when you live in Phoenix because we don't live by any lakes. So if we want to be at a lake at 4:30 to get the shad spawn bite, we literally have to leave our house at like 1:30. and then our day is just like, we're just wrecked, right? So I like showing up to a lake at like 9 o'clock in the morning. And my favorite time to fish is the middle of the day anyways. So I'm there for the best 6 hours of the day. And then if it's good, I fish through the afternoon and the evening and I enjoy myself, right? So that's more my speed. So a lot of times that just plays into a walking frog better because the sun's already up. There's shadows cast. If you're fishing a dock, there's a shady side and a sunny side. If you're fishing a tree, there's a shady side and a sunny side. And very easily I can kind of figure out like, oh, they're in the shade pockets, or oh, they want on the sunny side. So for frogs, for me, usually one of these two is my starting point. I love the Buster K. This is my favorite walking frog of all time. What I love about the Buster K, this is from Deps, by the way. It's a very easy frog to walk. It's one of the easiest frogs in the market to walk. It's a pretty compact frog. Like if you compare this to another frog that I throw a lot, this is the Gavacho frog, you can see it's a much smaller profile, right? But what's also dope about this is it has an internal weight transfer system in it. You can hear it. Right? So there's a weight in here that when I cast, it flings to the back and helps propel this frog. So I have a small frog that I can throw really, really accurate. I absolutely love this frog in anywhere that I would say is like mid cover to open cover. Okay, so skipping up underneath a dog, real light kind of floating grass, that kind of stuff. But if it's like gnarly toolies and there's just like shit everywhere, then this isn't my favorite frog, because the way this lip is like this, a lot of times it'll just kind of get to places and it won't quite climb over the top. And so it'll drive you a little nuts. So when I get to places where there's lots of, you know, toolies, or I'm really trying to skip it in there, that's when I'll go to the Big Gabot. So it just comes through some of the really gnarly stuff a lot easier. Pins them really good. So that's kind of how I choose my frog. I'll mix the Gavacho in there sometimes too when I just want more of an open water walk, and they smoke that one really well also. So colors I keep simple: white, black, bluegill, pretty much it for me. Now you guys might live in an area where they want chartreuse, or they want red, or they want a real natural frog pattern. So you're gonna have to adjust your color tones, but if you're just starting out, white and black will solve probably 90% of what you need to do, and then mix in bluegills at times when they won't eat one of these and you're pretty much there, right? So there you go. Number 3, I think that was number 3, right? Yep. Number 3 is a frog. Now, number 3, asterisk. So we're still on 3.
Like 3.1 or something?
Yeah, 3.1, because it's a walking topwater bait, just like a frog.
Okay.
Same thing,
Sure,
right? Yeah,
let's run with it.
If I'm fishing a lake that's more open water, then I'm replacing my frog with this. Okay, and this is a walking topwater bait. Now I would say 100% of the time I'm starting here at a Kicknocker.
Yep.
So I will adjust my walking bait based on what the fish feedback is. If I see a bunch of fish following and they're not committing, then I might go to something that's a little more graceful, like a gunfish or a Sammy, giant dog X, or I might even, you know, go to a silent bait like a Evergreen JT or something like that. But I'm almost always starting here with either a Kicknocker or a Kicknocker pup. So I keep my colors pretty straightforward. Some kind of shad pattern, a white bone or a white walker, sake bomber, something that's just straightforward baitfish related is where I'm going. I like the Kicknocker because it's great in calm water. I can fish it real slow, and it has that nice kind of big knock, right? So I can fish this in calm water real slowly, and any of those fish that are suspended over treetops or out over deeper water will hear this thing moving, and it walks on itself really well, and it's just an easy meal for them to just move up and eat and then move back down. And I've caught fish in 40, 50, 60 feet of water with a Kicknocker, and they're just suspended out in open water. So it's a great one for that. It's also a great one for waves and chop. So a lot of you guys fish, you know, weekends. And if you guys live in a place like what we do, if you go out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the lake is like this, right? But the closer the weekend, as you get to weekend, every single human that jet skis, water skis, wakeboards, drinks beer and drives around like an idiot, nothing wrong with the drinking beer part, but it's hard to be an idiot without the beer, right? They're all out there. So even if you're out there on a calm day where it's not windy, you just have, you know, boat chop and wake and all this kind of stuff. And the Kicknocker was actually built to go through that, right? So Hideki built this for fishing Lake Mead that's known for having, you know, tons of huge waves. So this is a bait that you can still walk even up and down and through waves. And even if a wave comes over, it's still gonna kind of walk and then pop back out, where most topwaters will just kind of wash out, right? They need more calmer surface. So Kicknocker is just a great one, no matter what the conditions are. It works. So there you go, 3.1 for me. I'm throwing the Kicknocker. You're shaking your head. You don't like my counting
I don't like your counting system at all.
Why not? See, we're only on 3 and I've got so many more things to talk about. All right, number 4.
Whoa.
Good?
Nice.
Okay.
A whole number.
Yeah, number 4. Are you noticing a trend that I don't like to fish slow this time of the year?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any slow moving stuff here.
There are... If I was in a 1v1 and all I had to do was get numbers of fish, I would probably just throw like a wacky rig.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like an inchy wacky on a flick shake or something, and just cover a lot of ground and pitch at every bush and try to catch every 1 pound male known to man, right? But shoot me if it comes to that.
Yes.
Right? I want to catch fish the good way.
Have fun.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Manly way.
Manly.
Yeah.
Yep.
No offense, Griff. Spinnerbait. Okay, I love a spinnerbait when they're chewing a spinnerbait. This is another great one that you can fish super shallow. You can throw it right into the trees during shad spawn. And it's one that you can fish out a little bit deeper as well. So it's just a really versatile bait that I pretty much always leave on my rod. I might not use it every day, because there are certain days where they just won't touch it. So if you guys are fishing a big body of water and it's just glass calm, probably not gonna eat a spinnerbait really well, right? That would be a time where I'd be throwing the shit out of the top water and the Magdraft, and I would just try to pick them apart. But if it's a day where it's got some breeze and some wind to it, dude, spinnerbait is so tough to beat. When you get any kind of breeze or any kind of, you know, ripple on the surface, they'll smoke a spinnerbait. So spinnerbait's great to fish down. You really pick stuff apart, but it's also great on a windy day to just burn right under the surface, and you just get all that flash, and all of a sudden it kills and flash, and it just looks like bait getting away, and again, looks like an easy meal and has a trigger to them. So tons of spinnerbaits on the market. SV3 by Megabass would be my choice if I'm just fishing super heavy cover. But a spinnerbait that I've been having a ton of success on lately is this guy. I really didn't give it enough attention until recently, and now I can't seem to get away from it. So this is the Raid Level Spin. So this is just a compact spinnerbait now. I will preface, this is a very light wire spinnerbait. It's super hard and super light, so it vibrates really hard. What makes a level spin kind of special is that it's built to fish level. So where most spinnerbaits kind of come through at like a weird angle, like you could even see it, they even show it on the back of the package. This one swims at a much more, you know, horizontal, much more level pace, right? Now, that wire will vibrate, that hook is small and sharp, so when you get bit, all you need to do is just turn, and that hook notches them. I mean, it's amazing how good that hook hits them. But don't boat flip with these, okay? So if you're fishing from a boat, bend over and pick them up, or net them, get them in the boat, because the wire will definitely flex a lot on you. But you're gonna get bites that you're not gonna get on other spinnerbaits. So there you go, number 4 for me, spinnerbait. All right, 4.1, okay, 4 asterisk.
Because this one's so similar to a spinnerbait.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing, but just a little bit different, would be a rat. You know I can't just choose 5 lures, Jeff. I don't even know why we come up with these dumb topics. You know I carry 87 pounds of tackle every time I go out. Okay, I can't talk about post spawn and not talk about a rat. This is not a bait that I throw very often. But this is a bait that when the conditions are right, this is the funnest way to catch them. Like, this is the gnarliest, most aggressive, coolest way. There's nothing sicker than catching a bass and having a giant rat coming out of its mouth. It's so dope. But it's just a super fun way. It's top water, it's power fishing. The sound is just mesmerizing to hear that gurgle, that through the water. And then when you get hit or when they fall, it's dope, right? So if you guys are contemplating getting into rat fishing, or you have some rats and you're wondering what to do with them, this is your season. Like right now is when they just destroy this thing, right? So I pretty much just throw the PB rat. Spro makes a good one for pretty inexpensive money as well, that I've watched just absolutely destroy fish. But you know, I just live on the PB rat. I'll just mix up colors. Sometimes I throw 3-piece, sometimes I throw 2-piece. I basically bounce from like a brown, a white, and a black. Kind of like my frog selection, pretty basic, right? 3-piece is almost always my starting point. I'll go to a 2 when it's too loud. So if it's real calm and real shallow, I might go to a 2-piece because it just kind of quiets it up a little bit. But any other time, 3-piece is kind of where I live. One thing that I have discovered over the last couple of years, especially with fishing with Jeff, gear ratio is super critically important with these. So stay in a slower to mid gear ratio on your rats. I have a tendency to fish very fast, and I have a tendency to have a lot of 8-to-1 reels laying around. They're tough, like real tough to rat fish. And I see Jeff shaking his head. You agree?
Yeah. You want to be in like in the middle at like a 6.
Yeah, I think a 6 or a low 7, like a 7 1-to-1, you're fine, but a 6 even better, because you know it's a constant wind, and you really need that slower pull with that rat to really get those joints to move properly. So if you go too fast, it just starts diving. It doesn't really create the right sound. You're gonna notice you're gonna be like, it's kind of unimpressive. But when you move it at the right speed, that real slow moving speed, dude, it's game on. Yeah, it's super dope. So 4.1, just for the fun factor alone, right? You're right. Okay, number 5.
Whoa, yeah.
Okay.
Great counting.
Okay, so everything I've talked about so far has pretty much been shallow. Top water down to just a few feet.
The way God intended, man.
Right. Real bass fishing.
Real
right?
men bass fishing.
Now, the one asterisk that I will throw is my favorite way to catch giants.
Oh.
Okay, but
yes.
This is one of those techniques where they're either eating it or they're not.
Yeah.
So I'm always ready for it. I always want it to be there, but it's not always there.
Yeah, dude.
Okay?
And that's the big old fat 10-inch swim bait, right?
No, that's stupid.
Oh.
No, I like catching fish.
Oh.
No, I want to catch fish.
Big ones.
Even better than a swim bait for catching giants.
Oh, okay.
A deep crankbait.
There it is.
Would you argue?
No.
Right.
It's just the truth.
Right. Deep crank. So this is the time of the year where the deep crank just absolutely starts to crush them. This is going to pretty much stay. Well, I mean, some places they always eat a deep crank, but for me, it's really like now through mid-fall, pretty much is deep crank season. So anytime that those fish abandon the shallows, if they're sitting up on those points, or they've moved off into a creek bend and they're just kind of recovering there before they move shallow, that's a great time to get them on a deep crank. Now, those post-spawn fish that will move out to those humps, a lot of times will stay on those humps if there's enough food. And that's like the holy grail, right? So if you can find a hump or a rock pile or the tip of a point or a bend in a channel that's a natural place for a fish to leave the shallows and just like go chill for a minute, and then all of a sudden there's like a filter of food, whether it's current or they're just in the perfect place where bait is moving in and out, crawdads are there, those fish will stay there maybe forever until the level changes. I've caught them all. Something like that has happened, right? That happens a lot.
That happens a lot.
So for me, I pretty much live on 2 deep cranks. I'll mix in a Strike King here as well, because there's times where they just want a Strike King, but 99% of the time, it's right here. The Megabass Big M 7.5 or the OSP Blitz Magnum EXDR. Now, up until last year, it was pretty much just the Strike King 10XD, 8XD, and the Big M, right? So the Strike King has a real wide lip to it, has a real wide movement to it. It's a great grinding bait. So if I don't know what I'm fishing, I still think the Strike King is the best one, because I can throw it out there, I can get it down, and I feel that wide lip grinding, and I can really tell when it's transitioning from one type of rock to another type of rock. But it wears the shit out of you. I mean, it's a hard crankbait. It just is always pulling, right? So when the Big M came out, it pretty much replaced most of my Strike Kings because I kind of know what I'm fishing. Like, I know what's on that rock pile, I know what's on that hump. So I can throw this, and instead of it having a big grinding motion, it has more of a flashing motion, right? So color-wise, I keep it simple, shad patterns or chartreuse, right? So chartreuse is a great one this time of the year, but a lot of times I'll just stay in like a natural shad tone, something flashy, something bright. So this is a great time of the year for like Hasus, right, down deep, or a white, something like that. So the Big M, you can see it's a much narrower lip. So instead of this having a big wide movement like this, it has more of a flashing movement like this. So it's coming through like this. So it's getting the vibration, it's getting the movement, it's getting the flash, but you're not cranking your arm off, okay? So it's a great one to throw. I absolutely love it. Now, realistically, it's like a 20-foot diver, okay? So it says 7.5 meters, which in theory would be like 22 to 25 foot, maybe on like 10 pound. But I pretty much live on like 12 and 14 pound. I would say realistically it's like 18 to 22, somewhere in there, right, is where I'm getting this thing down to. Now, the new one is this guy. This is the OSP Blitz Magnum EXDR. If these were more readily available, maybe it's the only one I throw. Probably not, because I like options, but this is a like true 30-foot diver, right? So it's gonna get even deeper, but I find myself not throwing it that much because I only have a few, and I really don't wanna lose them. So, you know, I pretty much live on the Big M, right? But this is kind of the 1-2 punch. This is the combination. They have a different movement. This is gonna have more of a flash. This is kind of in between. This is some flash and some wobble. And then the Strike King is all wobble, no flash, right? So you basically have 3 options there. Sometimes it's amazing, dude. Sometimes they're all down there and you run it with the Big M and they don't touch it, and you run it with the OSP and they don't touch it. You throw the stupid Strike King down there and they eat it, right? And vice versa. Sometimes you run the Strike King through and it's too much, and you switch up with an OSP and every cast you're jacking them, right? Same with the Big M. So you kind of just have to vary. Usually if the deep crankbite's going, I'll have 3 or 4 different deep cranks lined up, whether they're all Big M's in different colors or a couple Big M's, an OSP, a Strike King, however it lays out. But that way, you know, you can position yourself on your point, your rock pile, whatever it is you're fishing, and you know, you get a couple good casts through there and nothing, mix it up and just give them a different sound, right? Different vibration, sometimes a different color even. It gives them just a different look to get bit, okay? So there you go. Number 5, this is my favorite way of catching giants. I would say now through July is probably my favorite time for catching giants. I know it's kind of the opposite for swim bait guys, right? Swim bait guys really are focused on those pre-spawn giants, right? And obviously, I mean, a pre-spawn giant is heavy, it's healthy, it's beautiful, but the post-spawners, when you get past that initial first few weeks and they get out there, especially if they're feeding on big food, gizzard shad, crappie, barfish, like tilapia, stuff that can fill them up fast, and within a couple of weeks they've eaten 6 or 8 or 10 things, and boom, they put their fat back on, and they've got, I mean, dude, if a fish sucks 2 barfish in, that could be a pound of weight right there, right? So post spawn is just a great way. If you're gonna get the biggest fish in the lake, it's gonna happen to you usually either pre-spawn or post-spawn. So the next couple months, great chance to get a giant on the deep crank. All right, guys, that is a wrap. No boring soft plastics in my arsenal.
I was gonna say, you forgot the hover shot.
Look,
And the crawler.
if somebody wants to challenge me to something stupid this time of the year, I'll take the challenge, right? Like we were talking earlier about like Senko, I mentioned flick shake, drop shot. Like, look, all these things are incredibly effective tools for this time of the year, almost all year, right? But anytime the fish are in shallow or sitting up on a hump or structure, soft plastic is a great way to catch them, right? But this is the time of the year where they actually eat this cool stuff. So
might as well fish it, right?
yeah, let's catch them on the cool stuff, right? I mean, if you love throwing a snake, that's your jam, great. I mean, dude, there's nothing wrong with catching them on anything. But this is my favorite baits of May video, right?
Yeah.
Not
Get your own.
boring ass baits of May video. So this is just how I like to catch them. But obviously, if they ain't eating this shit, I'm probably gonna throw a drop shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an idiot.
Yeah,
If I gotta
right.
throw a free rig or throw a drop shot, I mean, sign me up.
Put
Let's
it
go.
on.
Let's go do it, right? Or if I'm in Michigan, my top 5's probably just 2.
Very different.
Or 3, a dice, a
dice,
free rig,
free
and the
rig.
Okashira screwhead.
Boom.
And I'm done.
What more could
right?
you ask
Maybe I'll
for?
throw a jerkbait in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty simple, right? So, guys, enjoy this time of the year. This is the time of the year where you can almost pick anything and they'll eat it, right? So, if you want to try to learn how to catch them on something new, this is the time to do it. If you want to just go have fun on your favorite baits or your favorite techniques, this is the time of the year to do it. So, if you have questions on anything we covered or anything that I like to do this time of year, drop it down below and I will definitely get some answers for you. If you'd like to share some of your favorite techniques or baits that you use this time of the year, drop it down below. Let's collectively share as much info as we can, and you know, hopefully we'll all become better anglers, right? So Jeff will leave links to the products if you guys want to check any of them out, and let's go fishing, Jeff.
All right.
Should we
let's do it.
1v1 this?
Okay.
Flick shake?
I was thinking deep crank, but yeah, flick
Oh,
shake.
yeah, let's do the deep crank. That sounds way better. All right, guys, on behalf of myself and Jeff and everybody here at the Hookup Tackle, guys, thank you for giving us time to watch these videos. Thank you for your business. Thank you for your support. And we will see you again on the next episode. So enjoy May, fish some fun stuff. Peace.